The story of America does not begin where you were taught. It does not start with Columbus, nor does it begin with the Mayflower. The truth is older. The truth is deeper. The truth is buried beneath your feet, hidden beneath city streets, plowed over by fields, renamed, repainted, and rewritten until only fragments remained. For centuries, this land was alive with civilizations that rose and fell, built and traded, dreamed and prayed, and they left behind traces. Earthen pyramids taller than city halls, roads stretching from the Great Lakes to the Gulf, and stories whispered through generations that never made it into your textbooks. Tonight, we are going to journey through those lost chapters. We will follow the rivers that once carried ancient traders. We will step into cities erased from memory. We will listen for the voices of ancestors who were silenced, Native, African, and even those whose names were deliberately lost, and we will bring their truths back into the light. This is not a fairy tale. This is not fantasy. These are the shadows of reality that survived in hidden letters, forbidden archives, and oral histories that refuse to die. And by the time this journey ends, you will no longer look at the land beneath your feet the same way again. Let us begin. Our first chapter begins not in the 1500s, but 1,000 years before. In the heart of North America, along the Mississippi River, there thrived a civilization of engineers, astronomers, and traders. Today, they are known only as the Mississippians, but once they built cities rivaling those of medieval Europe. The greatest of these was Cahokia, a city of 20,000. Larger than London at its peak in the 1200s, earthen pyramids rose above the plains. Markets bustled with traders from the Great Lakes to the Gulf, and wooden henges tracked the solstices. This was not a scattered tribe. This was a nation. Yet, as European settlers expanded westward, the narrative of a wild, empty land was convenient. Mounds were plowed for farmland. Artifacts were stolen or melted down. Historians either ignored or erased what they found. Some claimed these cities could not have been built by the ancestors of the native people they encountered. They invented lost races, phantom builders, and myths to explain away the truth. The truth is this: the first chapter of America is a story of sophistication erased, a history buried not just by soil, but by intention. The mounds still rise, the rivers still remember, but few stop to ask who laid the first stone. In 1311, a Malian emperor named Mansa Abu Bakari II launched an expedition across the Atlantic, sending a fleet to explore the Western Ocean. Arabic chronicles record it. West African oral histories remember it. Ocean currents would have carried them straight toward the Americas, and when Columbus came centuries later, he reported seeing black merchants already trading along the coasts of the New World. The Olmec heads of Mexico, carved centuries before, bear African features. Historians debate, deny, or deflect, but the question remains: why is this not taught? Because it rewrites the narrative of discovery. It reveals that the Americas were part of a global network before conquest. It tells the story of presence before oppression. Was it contact, trade, or settlement? We may never know fully, but the traces remain. Carved in stone, whispered in chronicles, erased in classrooms. As European colonizers swept across the continent, they encountered cities and then erased them. In the Great Plains near modern-day Kansas, there was a city called Etzanoa, described by Spanish explorers in the 1600s. It housed as many as 20,000 people, a metropolis of its time. But when the invaders returned decades later, it had vanished, its name erased from maps. In the South, the origins of the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations tell of a sacred mound called Naniwaya, a place of emergence, a womb of a people. For centuries, its story was sacred until settlers fenced it off, renamed it, and buried its purpose beneath layers of indifference. Libraries burned, not just in Europe's dark ages, but here. Spanish conquerors torched codices in the Southwest, turning centuries of astronomy, medicine, and history to ash. The memory of cities built with red stone, streets lined with cedar, Schools teaching mathematics before Harvard even existed, gone. And yet, in the soil, in the stones, in the songs of the people, the memory survived, as colonization turned into conquest, and conquest into government. Treaties were written, not to honor but to erase. The Trail of Tears, often reduced to a paragraph in history books, was not just a march of suffering, it was the deliberate removal of entire nations from ancestral lands. Sacred mounds were bulldozed to lay railroads. Rivers were dammed not only to harness water, but to flood out villages and memory itself. Many treaties were never honored. Some were never signed by the true leaders. Others were locked in archives where no descendant could see them. Behind closed doors, maps were redrawn, names were changed, and wealth was built upon the silence of the dispossessed. These were not isolated injustices, they were a system of forgetting. Built to last, blood remembers. Even when names are erased, when documents are burned, when families are broken apart, blood carries memory. Today, DNA testing has uncovered what history hid. African blood in families that claimed to be European for generations. Native ancestry in people told they had none. Intermarriage, adoption, forced assimilation, these are not just historical events. They are scars and bridges written into our very cells. Epigenetics tells us that trauma echoes across generations. The wounds of slavery, displacement, genocide, they echo in the health. The fears, the dreams of descendants. But there is power in knowing. Power in reclaiming names, stories, songs. Power in saying, I know where I come from, and now I walk forward with open eyes. When evidence threatened the official story, it did not always make it to the museum floor. Whispers have long circulated about artifacts taken from mounds, giant skeletons, tablets with unknown symbols, relics of contact, quietly shipped to vaults of the Smithsonian or private collections. Some researchers claim to have seen them, photographed them only for the evidence to vanish. Are these legends or a policy of silence? We may never know fully, but we know this: every civilization has keepers of truth, some in the light, some in the dark. The question is, who are they serving? But history does not stay buried forever. In the last decades, sacred objects have been returned to their people. Young generations are asking the questions their grandparents feared to ask. Digital archives reveal what was locked away in boxes. Satellites trace the outlines of cities long forgotten. The truth is rising, slowly, like a river after winter thaw. And you are part of that awakening. By listening, by remembering, by sharing. The ancestors are not gone, they are waiting for you to hear them. What we have walked through tonight is not the whole story. It is only a glimpse of what was, and what remains to be found. The greatest theft of history was not gold, not land, not even lives, it was memory. But memory can return, through stories told, songs sung, names reclaimed, and questions asked. The land remembers, the rivers remember, the blood remembers. Now, it is your turn. Preserve your family's history, record your elders, question the maps. Look twice at the land beneath your feet, for it may hold the city of your ancestors. History is not finished, it is waking.